Hi, it is Dispeller here. I have another interesting bit of information for you about narcissistic personality disorder traits. Today we're going to be talking about the trait of empathy. Now, I learned a lot doing this research myself because I knew what empathy was to an extent. I mean, I know it's feeling people's feelings, kind of walking in their shoes, if you will. But what I didn't know is there are actually 3 types of empathy. And the one that the narcissist is lacking is emotional empathy. However, there are 3 types, and I'm going to talk to you about those. I have some pretty good notes here, so sit tight. And as I did yesterday, I probably won't be looking at the chat a whole lot. I will be addressing your questions right after because that way I can stay focused on what I'm saying and we can have more of a discussion in the aftermath of this time. So there are 3 types of empathy: cognitive, emotional, and compassionate. Let's talk about what these are. Cognitive empathy means knowing what someone's experiencing, but kind of keeping yourself at a distance away from it. So, kind of the attitude of that's their problem, not mine. It's like seeing a insect struggling. It just fell into a droplet of water, and you're watching it kick its little feet and it's laying on its back, and you just walk away and leave it there. That's cognitive empathy. Oh, poor thing. Oh, well, it's just a bug. Emotional empathy, feeling similarly to the person that's experiencing a sensation or a situation. So when somebody falls down on the ground, you relate to it as if it's happening to you. Like, oh, that must have really hurt. I hope they didn't skin their knee or something like that. So you're feeling those feelings. In the case of the insect in the droplet of water, it's, oh, poor thing. I feel so bad that I accidentally spilled that water. That must be awful to be laying there drowning in that. And, gosh, I feel awful for that poor little thing. Now there's compassionate empathy. And compassionate empathy involves the other 2, but it also means understanding and feeling and also being compelled to help the creature or person out. So in that case, it would be seeing the insect in the droplet of water, feeling, oh my gosh, that must be awful to be laying there and slowly drowning, and saying, oh gosh, what can I do? Maybe I can somehow dry the insect off. Maybe if I try to gently scoop it up on this piece of paper and put it outside, it'll live and be free. That's me. That's me. I'm the compassionate empathizer. I feel, hey, Eli, I feel for that little insect. I feel for that person that fell down. I'm going to try to help them up. I'm going to go over and say, are you okay? Kind of like those kids in the car the other day when that little girl was crying and I kept asking them questions. Is everything okay? Did you guys get in a fight? You didn't hit your sister, did you? And actually that's what happened was he hit his sister, but they didn't admit that to me. Of course, they weren't going to, rat on each other. So they didn't. But what was evoked in me was compassion and empathy. Oh my gosh, there's a problem here. This little girl is crying. I felt her pain. I felt her sadness. And I walked over and said, is there something I can do to help? Let me tell you some things that next time, if you are in trouble, this is what you can do. I showed him the sign of I'm in danger that you can give to a police officer or an official to get you help. So that evoked all 3 feelings of all 3 types of empathy in me. So there is a saying by Henry David Thoreau. I think he's a poet. I'm not really sure. And what it is could a greater miracle take place than to look through each other's eyes for an instant? On my community page, there is a video. I really encourage every one of you to go and watch that. And if you will, put in the comments below if you felt anything through watching that video and what it did for you. Did it evoke a response in you? Did you feel moved by it? Or did you just say, oh, well, that's interesting? I'd really like to know. Anyway, so put your comments down below about that after I close out this video. I have often talked about narcissism throughout the years. You guys have watched me if you've been with me for any length of time, but I've always said narcissists lack empathy. Well, what they're discovering, I guess through trial and error and psychotherapy and such, is that narcissists don't necessarily lack empathy. They can feel empathy, like the first 2 empathies especially. The problem is what drives the narcissist. So specifically emotional empathy is what we believe that the narcissists are lacking in. But in Psychology Today, which I will post the article along with this, a narcissist might actually indeed have the ability to show empathy, but choose to disregard it and disregard the feelings or the pain of the other person and not to engage with that person to help them out. Empathy, when used by manipulative narcissists, can be displayed to control their victim by learning what moves their victim and thus using empathy as a withholding device to control that victim. So, especially in a romantic relationship where there's hugs and kisses and romance, if the narcissist wants to make that victim feel a certain way or do a certain thing, they'll often ignore them, give them the silent treatment, not hug them like they do every morning. They'll not engage romantically with them, something like that. If it's a friendship, they'll ignore your phone calls. They'll just pretty much spend time with other people and exclude you, that sort of thing. So withholding that empathy, withholding that connection that you need, that feeling of this person cares about me, that's what a narcissist will do. Oh, they definitely know that you need that. And in fact, this happened to me. Here's an example. I can remember when I was very, very upset about something, I was sitting in a room and crying, and my former mentor just ignored me. She was hugging her kids. She was talking to her husband. She was connecting with everybody around me, but literally leaving me in a room crying by myself, confused at her behaviors, not understanding what on earth was going on. Later on, when I talked to her, I said to her, Becky, why? Why would you just leave me crying? You claim to be my best friend, my mentor, my overseer, my supervisor, somebody that's a confidant. We've shared many hours together, many moments of really meaningful experiences. How could you just leave me sitting there crying? Her response was, I knew what you needed. You wanted me to come in there and hug you and tell you everything was going to be all right. Well, yeah, that's usually what a friend does. Yeah, I couldn't do that for you because I knew that's exactly what you wanted. And that wouldn't make you try to find the answers on your own. Okay, when somebody's in distress, they're not in a state of mind to really find answers on their own. They at least need a hug or a word of comfort of, I'm sorry you're hurting. Is there anything I can do? No, that wasn't in her to do that. Her experience, her connection with my experience just was an observational one, a cognitive one. Yep, I know she's hurting, she's crying. Yep, that's probably pretty awful for her. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave her in there. She'll figure it out, type of thing. So there you go. There's an example of that type of cognitive empathy, knowing somebody's hurting, but just pretty much distancing herself from me. Okay, so another reason why a narcissist can use empathy in a bad way is to break into the psyche of somebody to later on manipulate them and cause insecure feelings or feelings of attachment anxiety. Narcissists love to play on attachment disorders. They love to affect you with trauma bond issues. They will bond with you very, very closely, but when you least expect it, when you need them the most, they will pull away that affection. They'll pull away their attention. They'll just basically distance themselves from you and let you flail around while they observe and say, interesting. The narcissist is constantly in self-protection mode. So feeling empathy means that they have to be vulnerable. They have to take the focus off of their own wants and needs and put it on the vulnerable, hurting individual. A narcissist, you have to remember, will generally be looking out for number one first. This will make them appear cold and uncaring. In a time that the narcissist feels vulnerable and wounded personally, he or she may not even be consciously aware that they feel this vulnerability. They know something's off. They can tell that they're just bummed out, whatever. They don't realize that maybe their mask is coming off. Maybe somebody's seeing something that they're trying to hide. So they don't understand cognitively and awareness wise that this is going on. But they do feel it. And what they do is they will put up a shield, kind of, and they will be stubborn. They'll not accept responsibility for the pain they caused another person. They will seem cold and distant. That's how they react and respond to this sort of thing. But they don't realize that this is because they're feeling vulnerable and wounded themselves. I mean, they may cognitively know, well, you hurt me and I'm upset, that sort of thing. But what they don't realize is they're basically, people are peeling away the layers of protection that they have around themselves. So they lash out or they just get cold. If we keep in mind that the main thing that narcissist feels deeply all the time is shame, it makes sense why they avoid feeling the deepest of emotions and instead project onto another person, push the other person away, scorn the person, mock the person, and punish anybody that's trying to dig deeply into them or try to help them or try to figure them out. They're trying to avoid self-shame. What's interesting to me is a lot of narcissists in my life that I've encountered will often say, shame on you, or you should be ashamed of yourself, when really it's them experiencing the shame. And they get very angry when I say, nope, really don't, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. I haven't done anything wrong. Now, what I'm thinking in my mind is, but you have, and you're trying to project that onto me, and I'm not stupid. I'm not taking your shame. You need to experience your feelings of what you did and realize it's wrong, whatever that might be, and get help for it or act on it properly or repent or ask for forgiveness or whatever they need to do to remove that. But a narcissist won't. They carry that shame the whole rest of their life until they actually get help, the proper help for it. In many circumstances, when a non-narcissistic person would feel empathy toward another person, in a narcissist, what we see is the shame avoidance taking place, like I just told you. What this looks like is shame fear or losing face. Like, how dare you expose me? You're an awful person. Why would you point out my flaws? Look at your flaws. It's a shame fear. They don't want to be found out. Or shame rage, which involves them shielding themselves from a past trauma that they may not even cognitively be aware of. They just feel this thing building up in them. They don't want it coming to the surface, and they're freaking out. They're having a rage. They're screaming at the top of their lungs. They're pounding their fists on the table. That's shame-based also. It's called shame rage. This is seen, like I said, on the outside as it's kind of a temper tantrum type thing and just extremes of behavior showing basically indifference towards the people that are really needing them at that time, and also showing indifference to the pain that they're going through. They don't want to really admit that they're hurting because, again, that involves shame. Hey, Evelyn. So anything that strips that mask, anything that strips that shield off of them, they're going to avoid it at all costs. And they're going to become very, very cold and full of anger and just defensive in the most extreme ways. The important thing is when you are encountering this shame rage or shame fear from the narcissist, you need to protect yourselves. You have to not, as somebody once said, observe, not absorb their feelings. So yes, let them feel their feelings. Everybody has a right to feel whatever, but don't take it on yourself. Don't blame yourself for it. Don't be ashamed of yourself because the narcissist is reacting to shame rage or shame fear. Realize that the narcissist will not be able to feel your pain because they have too much shame and pain of their own way too deeply. They will try to diminish or minimize your experience and say, oh, it's not that bad. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. You're making it bigger than it is. You always exaggerate. And in my case, with my former mentor, they'll even punish you for it. If they see you reacting in tears, they'll say, oh, you're such a baby. You're stupid. Now go sit in that room. I don't even want to see you when you're acting like that. I often told my past clients when I was a life coach to realize that the narcissist in their lives just never got wired to feel for them or to help them in the way that they needed. You can't legitimately expect someone to give you what they do not have or what they do not have capacity to give. So what we need to do in the case of a non-empathetic or maybe a narcissist that is unable to react by the third stage of empathy, which is compassionate empathy, we need to stop expecting them to do that and stop expecting typical human behavior from an individual whose main drives in life are to avoid shame and find people to make them feel whole and real and existent. The main thing in the narcissist is to get narcissistic supply in whatever case that comes in. That can mean you adore them, you admire them, you look up to them, you think they are awesome and so amazing and so physically attractive, or you're just awed by their knowledge and their ability to organize things and direct people and whatever it is, or even you're afraid of them. They'll take that too. They can be notorious, they can be famous, it doesn't matter. Any kind of a supply they can get, that's what they're there for. They want it, they need it, they crave it, and indeed, if it's absent, they feel non-existent, like they will just literally fade away into oblivion and cease to exist. So that's what I found out about empathy in the narcissist, or lack thereof. It was really interesting to find out about those 3 types of empathy. And I learned something from this, definitely, about myself, that I'm going to keep on trying to work on exhibiting all 3 types of empathy. Not only the cognitive, where I observe somebody in distress, and the other empathy, which is, hold on, I need to look at my notes because I already forgot it. Emotional empathy, where you feel moved by what a person's experiencing. But also going on to the 3rd stage of compassion and empathy, where you help that person out. So I'm going to be working on that this year, to show more of that in my chat rooms and not be so distant from people's pain. I think at times I do kind of stop at the emotional empathy. I can feel it, but I don't always think about helping out. What can I do to help? Now I do pray for people, so I guess that is helpful, but maybe there's more I can do. Maybe just letting them talk about it. I don't know. Maybe there is. Anyway, we're on this earth for a short time. It may seem like a long time because you're living it, but really in the grand scheme of zillions of years, it's a short time. So hopefully while you're on this earth, you are exhibiting the types of compassion and behaviors and things that make you feel good about yourself and help you feel like a worthwhile individual on this earth. I was just listening to Jeff B's broadcast about what hurts the most, and I definitely could feel empathy towards him while listening to that. I could really relate to what he was saying. I really want you guys, if you didn't hear in the beginning of this broadcast, to go to my community page and go and watch my latest video that I posted there. It's actually, I believe it's a Cincinnati hospital, and it'll show you what everybody's going through there. There's going to be words near each person, what they're experiencing. And I want to know your feedback on that. Did you feel moved? Did you feel nothing? Did you just watch it? Was it interesting? Was it thought-provoking? Did it move you to tears? I would like to know. It'd be very interesting to know from anybody that watches that. I'd appreciate that. It's kind of a case study for me, just to, I love people behaviors, and that's what I've always studied and had interest in. So if you will do that, I will appreciate that very much. So does anybody want to add anything or share anything? What are you going through today? What's happening? What are your plans? I am going to go do a little bit of grocery shopping for a week's worth of groceries. Pray that I can keep it at that, because honestly, I don't have a refrigerator that's working. I just have that one top drawer in the freezer that kind of refrigerates stuff. Sometimes it freezes stuff too. So that's what I'm using in my refrigerator to keep stuff cold. So I can't buy a whole lot of things like eggs and milk and whatever. I mean, we might buy a couple small cartons of milk or something, but it really doesn't benefit us very much to buy a lot of dairy. So I'm going to buy some things for the week. I'm starting my 800 calorie per week plan. Other than the weekend, we get to have a little bit more than that and splurge a little bit. Matthew's joining me for it, so keep him in prayer. He's going through a lot, you guys. He's just emotionally, he's hurting. He's hurting a lot. And yes, I do attribute that to the stuff that's been going on online. Largely, it has really affected us. And sadly, the beings responsible for it have no clue how to empathize with that or feel that with us. So I don't expect them to. I don't expect beings that are wired differently to be able to give something that is not in their program, so to speak. But nonetheless, I'm experiencing the pain that my husband's going through, and I'm trying to hold him up through it. And I'm pretty strong. And I'm glad I'm over the whole COVID thing, because I'm stronger now emotionally than I would have been then, because I was too busy licking my own wounds, so to speak, to really reach out and help him. So I'm back on track with pretty much myself. I still have shortness of breath. I still have brain fog a bit, but I'm, for the most part, back to me. So I can help him. But it's really hard seeing somebody go through a lot of pain and really not always knowing what to do to help them, I was looking at some information here this morning and realizing what my husband's experiencing psychologically, etc., and trying to really be an empath in all three of those ways, and realizing that I've fallen kind of short in some of the situations we've been in. So I need to work also first at home before I can work outwardly. So that's kind of on my agenda now for, the rest of my life, is to be more of an empath. I am empathic, but I really want to learn more about reaching out and wanting to help and stuff like that. And I guess I used to be more like that. But when you get burned over and over from trying to reach out, and people take and take and take, and you're just like, you're spent, you've exhausted all your resources, there's nothing left to give, then you're the one that becomes the one that needs to be the recipient of the empathy from the other people. And it's not always there, y'all. I've often said, like, when you walk even into a church, oh, how's it going? Fine, fine, fine. There was a book, I can't remember what it's called, Truth Seekers, or I don't know, man, I wish I could remember. The gist of it was, we did this with a church actually that I used to go to called the Sanctuary. We learned about these two rooms. One room was where everybody they came in, and there were a bunch of people there, and the person walked in and they were like, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? And the man that walked in, fine, fine, everything's great. How's the wife? Good. How are the children? Good. How's your job? Wonderful. Excellent. And in the other, oh wait, yeah, he walks in the other room and they say, hey, how's it going? And he says, fine. And they look at him kind of strange, like, what do you mean fine? He's like, everything's fine. Everything's great. My wife's doing good. My job, blah, blah, blah. And they weren't accepting that answer. They're like, how are you really feeling? We don't really care how other people are feeling sometimes, especially if we're in a hurry. We're in a society that everything is so fast paced. We don't give the empathy to people when we should. There might be somebody that's, committing awful things, and that you could literally, by being kind to them and empathic, you could reach out to them and help them turn in a different direction. Or maybe somebody that is considering leaving this world, and you reach out to them and they decide, hey, maybe there is one person out there that cares. Now I'm not saying that people don't occasionally leech onto you and drain you, because that happens too. And that's why a lot of us have kind of turned off that third section of empathy called compassion, because we don't want to get sucked into that leechy, clingy, oh, I always got to be at their beck and call thing. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of disorders and a lot of problems that they haven't dealt with, and you could get caught up in something like that. But I'm just talking in general, in your regular life. Like, I work in a store, and if people walk by me and they seem like they're in distress, I'll be like, hey, is everything okay? Is there something I can help you find? What's going on? I'll try to strike up a conversation with them. I mean, I can put yogurts on a shelf while talking to somebody. That's not a problem. But a lot of us just don't bother. We don't take the time, and people are hurting. And right now with COVID, even if you make it out of your house, you're always thinking, am I catching something? Am I picking up germs? I want to get home to my comfort zone, my safety zone. I know I do. I don't like being out in public, knowing that there's every kind of germ out there known to mankind right now. Now we have this new variant, and people are freaking out over it even more and rushing to find out what they can do about it. There's just a lot of stress in life right now. There's a lot of emotional stuff going on. There's people that have lost loved ones. I was trying to talk yesterday. I don't remember if I finished telling this, but my friend John, who you guys have seen him on here, Jhon, recently lost a loved one to COVID. And it's like, I mean, John's close as you could be to me. He lives very close to me. And I told him, I said, if you need me, I'm here. I'll talk to you. I'll be here for you. I can be your emotional support person. You can cry to me. You can talk to me. You can reach out to me. I'll be there. We need to do that for each other. I mean, my time is limited because I work and I'm hopefully going to be getting more hours soon at my new place. But we've got to do it. You could save a life. You could turn a life around. You could be that smile that person needed. Of course, now we can't smile with masks on very much. Hey, Jeff, sometimes I'll just lift my mask up and say, here's my face. Here's a smile for you today. For a moment, you can lift your mask up and smile. Okay, I heard about the doggies. Cool. Enjoy your doggy time. But every little bit helps, and it doesn't hurt to give a kind word or a smile to somebody if you can, or sometimes even a pat on the back if the person isn't going to freak out over it. I've been listening to Grace for Purpose a lot lately, and if you haven't heard of that, please listen to it. I had the most unlikely person actually tell me about it, so I'm thankful to that person for doing that, because it's really helping me get through a lot of rough things right now. And yeah, I encourage you to check it out. Grace for Purpose. Just look it up. It's just little clips of spiritual, encouragement and stuff. And even if you're not a Bible person, it might be beneficial to you. I don't know. It was helpful to me. So yeah, that's about it here. Anybody else want to talk or say anything? I know it's a little early in the morning. A lot of people are busy doing stuff. It's Saturday. People are sleeping in if they can. That's what Matthew's doing. I got up and fed the guinea pigs and the cats this morning. And making a menu. Not a menu, I'm sorry. I should make a menu. Actually making a list of things. Where'd it go? I made myself a little list of some of my favorite foods, our favorite foods, and how much of it I can eat and how many calories are in each. Since I'm sticking with that 800 calorie thing, I'm going to do 3 meals and 2 snacks that are 100 calories each. And we'll see how I do. And then on the weekend, which will be Saturday and Sunday, I'll give myself a little treat of some kind. I'm trying to still stick with low sugar to no sugar stuff. And fruit is a good treat too. So I don't know. We'll see how that all goes. But I really want to make I got some marker on my finger. I want to make it to my weight of 170 pounds. That's what I'm working towards. So hopefully I can do it. And yeah. Anyway, nobody's really saying anything, so I guess I will go. It's 9:30. You guys have a great rest of your day. Be blessed. Shabbat Shalom. It is that day today. It is Shabbat, Sabbath. Have a great one. Be good to each other. Oh, Evelyn, he's sleeping right now. He seems to be doing slightly better when he was up earlier today. I don't know. Time will tell.